Very good morning, cadets. Hope you are all doing well. We started chapter number 6, that is towns, traders and craft persons. In this chapter, which we are going to study about how the towns developed in the medieval Indian history. Along with the development of towns, several traders or merchants, how the movements of merchants started in the medieval Indian history, and along with the growth of towns, there was a great deal of demand for a new profession that is called craft persons. The craft persons are those people, maybe goldsmith, blacksmith, or those who are working with the wood, carpenters. So the various type of new guilds requirement was started. As a result, large number of people were settled down in and around the town, which we studied in the last class. Now let us move further. These are the industrial towns which I asked you to do an activity. Hope you have done this. I asked you to locate the names of the country as well as states. Okay. Ahmedabad, Surat, Somnath, Murshidabad. This is an activity which I asked you to do. I also explained that what are the major topics which we are going to study in this chapter. That is what we speak about, highlights of the chapter. In this chapter we study about administrative centers. We also study about temple towns and the pilgrimage centers. And we also study about a network of small towns, traders, that is big and small. And we are going to study about Hampi and Masulipatanam, Surat, and the growth of new towns and traders. We studied in detail about the city of Tanjavur. Tanjavur was the capital of Chola dynasty, which was very powerful South Indian dynasty which ruled India, South India in the medieval Indian history, which we studied in detail in chapter number 2. The Chola dynasty was very popular or very famous for the construction of beautiful monuments or the buildings, especially temples for Lord Shiva. They were also known for the greatest contribution towards the irrigation sector. That is what also we are studied in chapter number 2. So Tanjavur was the capital of Chola. The town was blessed with the river Kaveri, which we studied in chapter 2. That is, river Kaveri was, delta of river Kaveri was providing water for the agricultural land near Tanjavur. As a result, it was very rich land in those days. Tanjavur was also known as for the temple construction and also called as temple town. Perundachan, this I told you, Perundachan means a person who is called as chief architect. The chief architect wrote his name in the walls of the temple. Besides the temple, there was a palaces, mandapams, pavilions which were used for the king. This we studied in very detail, that is the lost wax technique in which the bronze statues were made during the period of Chola. This statue is very popular statue, belongs to the Chola kingdom. Like if someone asked Taj Mahal belongs to which kingdom? Definitely will answer that that is a gift of Mughals to India. Like that, this bronze statue of Kaliya Mardhana, killing the serpent Kali, is one of the finest and the greatest contribution of Chola bronze statue. Apart from that, Tanjavur was called as temple town. Tanjavur was the administrative capital of Chola kingdom. More than administrative capital and temple town, Tanjavur also played a other role. That is what we speak, that Tanjavur was also the marketplace for spices, clothes and jewelry. Weavers of Tanjavur and nearby places were busy in producing clothes and other requirements for the temples. Staptasis and sculptors are making fine bronze idols and the tall ornamental bell metal lamps. Cadets, you know very well that South India is known for the spices. Generally, spices had a great deal of demand even today in the European countries. Spices are generally used for the purpose of cooking and other major requirements of the domestic requirement of the people. So Tanjavur was a marketplace for spices, clothes and jewelry. Weavers of Tanjavur and nearby places were busy in producing clothes and other requirements for the temple. Now, whenever there was a annual festival in the temple, lot of requirement was there for the flags, because you may be seen today, if when there is a fair in your village or nearby temple area, the village and the entire village and temple area is decorated with lot of flags and all those things. So there was a lot of requirement of such flags, especially during the time of festivals in the temple. So a small town started growing up near Tanjavur, and all these small towns were busy in producing requirements for the temple. Sthapatis means the people who are sculptors or the people who make the bronze statues. So even today when you visit Tanjavur, in and around the temple of Tanjavur, you can see a lot of sculptors or the bronze statue makers. Even today they are involved in the profession of bronze statue, and they mainly use the metal which is called bell metal. Okay, cadets, hope you are able to follow me. Apart from that, temple towns and pilgrimage centers. Tanjavur was also an example for temple town. The rulers built temples to demonstrate their devotion to various deities. Temples were also major trade centers because of modern urbanization is in and around of temple towns. Now, why several times I explained you why the kings developed or constructed huge temples or built huge temples. The temples were built to showcase, that is, one is their power, the second one their devotion to various deities. Like Rajaraja Chola constructed temple for Rajarajeshwara. Rajarajeshwara is Shiva. So when you visit Mahakot, you can see a lot of temples which belongs to Shiva. Belur Chanakeshwar temple. Now whenever a king constructed a temple, generally king constructed temple for those gods, in the name of those gods in which he trusted or he had a devotion. Now here, whenever temple towns grown, not only temples town, nearby you can see trade centers. Today if you visit Tirupati Tirumala temple trust, it is of course in the top of the seven hills it is told. Other than that, Tirupati is not an industrial center, but close together people visit Tirupati just because it is a pilgrimage center. So whenever close together people visit Tirupati, naturally you can see lodges, hotels and all other kind of facilities, because these facilities grow in and around Tirupati so that they can make business or that's why slowly the temple towns become the towns or the trading centers for other commercial purpose. So that's why most of the urbanization developed in and around the temple towns. Hope you are with me. Yes. Now let us understand, take for example how a school works. If it is a government school, then it is funded by the government. Imagine if it's a private school. How a private school functions? Private school functions because of the fees collection of the boys, or students who attend the school, they pay fees, and from the fees and the other source the school run. Like that, any organization, if it has to run successfully, it should be financially sound. So in those days there was a very systematic arrangement by which the temples get continuous income, so that the temples definitely function in a very systematic way. So king took lot of effort to make the functioning of temple without having any kind of breakage. That means without stopping any issues. How this done? Temples were endowed with the lands and money to carry out elaborate rituals and to take care of pilgrims and the temple needs. So, whenever a temple is constructed, the king endowed or donated a large sum of amount or gold as well as land. When a land is given to temple, so whatever the produce comes from the land, that produce can be sold, and from that the income which comes to the temple should be used for the temple requirements. What is the temple requirement? Temple has to carry out lot of rituals, puja, they have to do lot of work. So whenever the temple requires money, they can take the money from this. Not only that, when a pilgrimage or when a traveler or a person who devotee visit the temple, he should be taken care. So for that also the money which was used was from this. So that is what today whenever we speak, we heard that there are a lot of temples which are called endowment temples. Take for example in Karnataka, the richest temple of Karnataka is Kukke Subramanya Swami temple. Kukke Subramanya Swami temple is the richest temple. That is endowment temple, means whatever income comes from this temple directly goes to the government, and government maintains that temple. So today you can see the rich temple including TTD, that is Tirupati Tirumaleshwara Devasam Board, where this temple is maintained by a government, so income goes to government. Today temples are one of the major centers of income for the government. You can see Shabarimala Swami temple, it is a major income booster, or it provides major income to the government of Kerala. But in the past it was in a reverse order. That means the kings used to give land as well as money to carry out the works of the temple. Second point, temple authorities used their wealth to finance trade and banking. Thus, temples gradually became the centers of settlement of people like priests, workers, artisans, traders and others. So, whenever temple gets excess income, okay, what the temple used to do? Today you can see in Karnataka also, there are a lot of temples as well as mutt, that is Murugarajena mutt, Adichunchanagiri mutt. There are a lot of mutt in and around India, Karnataka also of course. Or what they are doing, what they will do is, they donate this money, either they finance this money for the trade and banking, so that they get income from their investment. So the activity of using temple fund for trade, finance and banking was a usual procedure which was started even in the medieval Indian history. When you visit Dharwad, you can see SDM, Sri Dharmasthala Manjunatheshwara Ayurvedic College. So SDM college is maintained and controlled by the temple trust called Dharmasthala Manjunatha Swami temple. So like that in Karnataka you can see n number of temples, they have their own medical colleges, engineering colleges, and maintaining a lot of educational institutions. So, the temple authorities used their wealth for finance, trade, and banking. Now let us move to the topic, which were the temple towns of the medieval Indian history. Temple towns. You should understand now why we are studying temple towns, because temple towns were not only a pilgrimage center, they were commercial centers also, they were the trading centers also. So because large number of devotees used to visit this place, that's why they were very important commercial centers. Okay, let us see the temple towns. One is Tanjavur, which we studied. Tanjavur is in which state? It is in Tamil Nadu. Second is Vidisha. It is in Madhya Pradesh. Somnath. Cadets, can you recall? We studied about Somnath in detail, because Somnath temple was richest temple. That's the reason why many invaders attacked this temple and looted the wealth. So Somnath, Saurashtra. Somnath in Gujarat. Next is Kanchipuram. Kanchipuram is of course a famous temple even today. Kanchipuram is in Tamil Nadu. Then we speak about Madurai. Madurai is a very popular temple town even today. Madurai is in also Tamil Nadu. And the last one is Tirupati, Tirumaleshwara temple, okay, Andhra Pradesh. So these are the temple towns which we are going to study. Tanjavur, Vidisha, Somnath, Kanchipuram, Madurai, and Tirupati. Let us study this in detail in the next class. Take care, write down all the points. Wish you a wonderful